I've been to Rome 7 times, and in this video, I am sharing with you the custom 3 days in Rome itinerary I crafted for my cousin when she came to visit me in Rome as a first timer. My goal for her, and now for you, was to provide as full a picture of the Eternal City as I could with just 3 days. This video is sponsored by Trastevere, a tour company that began in Italy and really prioritizes unique local experiences. Rome is one of my favorite cities in the world, if not the most favorite. So I really wanted her to have a positive impression of the city too. In this video, I will take you through and show you everything that we did together. And along the way, I will highlight my top recommendations, some tips. I'll also share with you what we didn't do and why we skipped it. But ultimately, the goal here is to give you enough information to help you customize and tailor your itinerary based on what I share with you in this video. If you're currently planning your visit to Rome, I have more detailed video guides in my Italy playlist and also written guides on my blog linked in the description below. She and I had 3 full days. So I myself was in Rome for a month this past April into May, but she visited me at the tail end and she had 3 full days in Rome. She arrived on a Friday evening, and after she had a chance to drop her bags off, we made our way out for dinner. She was staying with me, and on this visit to Rome, I myself was staying out of the city center in a neighborhood known as Appio Latino, or close to San Giovanni neighborhood. So we then took the bus back into the city center together and passed by Largo Argentina. This was her first glimpse of there just randomly being ruins around the city of Rome. I believe this is where Julius Caesar is said to have been killed. It's also a bit of a cat sanctuary, so whether you're interested in history or cats, you probably want to stop and take this site in. Our goal for dinner was we wanted something casual this first night, and there is a really great bakery. Unfortunately, as we got there, they had just closed. It was just 8 p.m. Instead, we settled for a nearby restaurant, which was okay. Another good option in that area would have been to go to Pizza Florida. A few years ago when I was in Rome, I stayed in this neighborhood and I would often go to Pizza Florida for some takeaway pizza al taglio, so pizza by the slice. They do it really well there. And if you're in this area, the Fata Morgana Gelateria, I really like that one. After this, it was evening and we were trying to stay out a little bit later. It happened to be the Italian Open was going on. There was a special light show at the Trevi Fountain and we were targeting catching the 11 p.m. show. Wandered around Rome at night. She got her first glimpse of Piazza Navona, and actually maybe her only glimpse on this trip for us. We also tried to visit Castel Sant'Angelo, which is really beautiful at night. Unfortunately, there was some weird power outage thing going on. So, you know, stuff happens, but I do recommend seeing Castel Sant'Angelo and St. Peter's Basilica at night when it's all lit up. It's so beautiful. The next morning was our first full day in Rome together, and we started bright and early at one of my absolute favorite, although cliche, spots in Rome, and that was with the Trevi Fountain. Recently, within the last year or two, the Trevi Fountain has instituted some new rules. From now on, between the hours of 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., I believe, you have to wait in line to get up close to the fountain, and it's a €2 fee. Maybe you don't mind that. Many people don't. But for me, what's always been magical about the Trevi Fountain is getting to go up close, sitting there for a while, and just taking in its majesty. It's also more enjoyable when there aren't so many people there. Obviously, it's a very popular site and people love to go for their photos. But if you are someone who wants to go just to appreciate the fountain, you really want to try to go early in the morning, before 9 a.m. And then we decided to make our way for breakfast. Now, there is a really popular breakfast cafe right near the Trevi Fountain. If you feel like waiting in a line, they are known in particular for their pistachio croissants and their cappuccino, which I think was better in previous years. But what I would recommend you do is go to Cafe Sant'Eustachio like we did. This is one of my absolute favorite must-stop, must-visit places in Rome every single time I go since my very first trip in 2012 when I first discovered it. Every time I go to Rome, I also buy bags of coffee from here to bring home as a souvenir for myself and for friends and family. I think this cafe has always been pretty popular, and in the years since I first went to it, that popularity has only continued to grow. If you were to follow them on Instagram, you would have seen that celebrities have stopped by. It's really good coffee. It's very solid, and it does come at a bit of a premium price. The typical way to enjoy coffee at a cafe in Rome is to have it al banco banco, which means you order it at the counter, you have it standing up along with your breakfast. If you do that, you avoid the surcharge that many cafes, including this one, have. If you want to sit at a table, you order directly from the waiter and you pay a little bit of a surcharge. We decided to do that. We decided to have a sit-down breakfast. We each ordered a cappuccino and a cornetto. One thing you will see on the menu here that I don't recommend getting is a 10 euro maritozzo. Maritozzo is something that you should try in Rome. In my opinion, you should not have to pay 10 euro for it. Cafe Sant'Eustachio is also in a prime location. It is very close to the Pantheon. In fact, my cousin and I walked right past the Pantheon on our way there. We took some photos. We decided not to go inside. Now, I have been in several times, so I really let my cousin take the lead. There was already a line forming. For us, after we enjoyed our breakfast at Cafe Sant'Eustachio, we walked over to the Spanish Steps. It's great to go here early if you can before the crowds hit. Because we were there in early May, the steps were still covered with beautiful flowers. From there, we wandered slowly, which is a real part of the magic of Rome, is just being able to wander and look around at all of the different beautiful streets. We stepped in and out of different side streets along the way, eventually made our way to Piazza del Popolo, just soaked in the sun here. We were having a leisurely stroll. We were really making our way to the bridge. We crossed over and saw Castel Sant'Angelo, saw the beautiful bridge, and then walked over and got our first glimpse, or at least my cousin's first glimpse, of St. Peter's Basilica. There's a really beautiful street near here that is worth a visit. It's a pedestrian-only street called Borgo Pio. We spent some time wandering up and down this really pretty street, and I recommend you do the same. You'll also find shops here and plenty of restaurants. We did some window shopping and then we had a little bit of lunch. So let me zoom out for you here in terms of what I was trying to do for my cousin with this part of the itinerary. We did not have any formal tours or activities booked for this first day. What I did want to do though was give her a feel for as many of the different areas and neighborhoods of Rome during her 3-day trip as I could. So just to take us back through it, we started with the Trevi Fountain. We had seen Piazza Navona the night before. We saw the Pantheon. We had our coffee. We saw the Spanish Steps. So we're doing a little bit of a mental checklist through these major sites, but at a nice leisurely pace and before the crowds got too thick. And now we were in the Prati neighborhood. We saw Castel Sant'Angelo. We saw St. Peter's Basilica. If you think about it, we've seen a lot already before lunch. Now, as lunch wrapped up, we were talking about, what do we want to do? As the host, I wanted to make sure my cousin had a good time. I hate shopping. My cousin, she's a shopper, as I found out. So we headed back to the neighborhood around the Spanish Steps. This is where there is a lot of really good, pricey shopping. After following her and kind of waiting outside stores with her for a little while, I realized that I was exhausted. The sun was beating down on us. We had walked so much, and this can happen to you. Although Rome is a little bit spread out, it's so walkable and it's so easy to think, we'll just walk there, we'll just walk there. And before you realize it, you've clocked like 15 to 20,000 steps. So at this point, I said to her, I need to go back and rest for a couple hours. She decided she wanted to come rest too. So we made it back to my apartment and we were only there for not enough of a rest. This is the downside. One of them about staying outside of the city center is we have to factor in our commute times, and we had made some evening plans. So our plans for the evening were to go back out after a bit of a rest, which we did, and make our way to Castel Sant'Angelo. And wouldn't it be so beautiful to go inside and get some really pretty sunset views over St. Peter's Basilica. Castel Sant'Angelo is pretty cool. I've been in there once and it's worth it if you have the time and interest for it. But it was also the first Sunday of the month, and Castel Sant'Angelo is free on the first Sunday of the month. So understandably, there was quite a long line and we were not interested in waiting in it. So we instead made our way back to Borgo Pio because my cousin had seen some leather bags that she wanted to get from that street. So we went, we picked them up, and at this point I was too beat to go anywhere else for dinner. So we also had dinner, we had pizza right on this street. It's a very charming street and not a bad place to spend night one. As we walked back to the train station, we stepped into another shop in the Prati neighborhood. It's another good area for shopping, to be fair. My cousin picked up a suit for work. These were parts of the days that I had not planned. I had not planned shopping in there, but of course you tailor and you accommodate based on your interests. Her interest was shopping, and so that became sort of a key part of our day one. Now on day two, we made our way really early again out into the city center. We stopped for a cafe al banco at a coffee shop near my apartment and then made our way on the train to Vatican City. This was the day that we were going to go in and see St. Peter's Basilica. Now, some important things to note here. If this is your very first time in Rome and you don't think you're going to be back anytime soon, I strongly recommend prioritizing seeing the Vatican museums on this trip. I think that they are really beautiful. The Sistine Chapel is a must. I have been lucky enough to visit multiple times. The thing is, it books out really far in advance, and my cousin was unable to get tickets. She did not see the Vatican museums, and we passed by the area. The line was unbelievable. So my recommendation for you is to book this far out in advance and to book the earliest entry time you can to go as soon as the Vatican museums open to try to avoid the really unreasonable lines. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is that my cousin, she lives in Paris and she has been living in Paris for years. She just hadn't made it to Rome, but it's a very easy trip for her. She knows at some point she's likely to return to Rome. For her, it could be a quick weekend trip. But for you, if you are going kind of on a once in a lifetime visit to Rome, you should really try to see everything you can in terms of getting into the major landmarks, if that's important to you. Our workaround, or not really a workaround, our sort of consolation prize was at least we were going to go into St. Peter's Basilica. Even for this, we got there super early. I think we were in line by 7:30 or 8 in the morning. Yes, there was already a line. We got in through security, spent a little bit of time inside, and then made our way for breakfast. There was no time for breakfast before. We had a line to stand in and get through so that we weren't stuck waiting for hours later on. Afterwards, we went to a nearby cafe called Tre Cafe. There are actually a couple of these. I know there's also one near the Spanish Steps. There's one near Vatican City. We had a nice breakfast. They have good American-sized coffees here if this matters to you. Conveniently, our bus that we needed to take to get to our next destination was right across the way. By the way, this is also where my cousin had a maritozzo. Much more reasonably priced and still very good. Our next stop was one that, even though this was my 7th visit to Rome, I had never made it to, and it was the Orange Gardens. This is a really popular sunset spot because you get really nice views all over the city of Rome. We made our way there by bus and then had a bit of a walk, a bit of a hike up to get all the way up there. And it was really nice to get out of the chaos of the city for a little while. We went and took in the views and then just sat on the benches for a while under these big, gorgeous trees. It was just really nice and a nice way to get some shade from the sun for a bit too. As the one who is planning this itinerary for my cousin and I, and perhaps for you, the other thing that I'm thinking about in the back of my mind is I want to make sure we're going places that are within logical distances of each other. All of this was working out well because after the Orange Garden, we were able to simply walk over to the Trastevere neighborhood. This is a neighborhood that is one of Rome's most popular, most charming areas. It's worth a visit just for that alone. But it's also where we had our main event of the evening, a cooking class. We had some time to kill though, so first we just strolled around Trastevere. We got some supli, which is Rome's answer to arancini. There is a beautiful hill up here that also has stunning views of Rome. I also had some pre-cooking class gelato, which our cooking class teacher later validated what we had found was one of only 2 really good gelaterias in Trastevere. So take note if you are wanting some gelato here. One of the best things I have ever done in Rome across all my trips was to take a cooking class. In fact, Rome is the first international cooking class I ever took back in 2016. And ever since then, I was sold. I have since booked cooking classes in multiple destinations abroad. It's such a good way to get a feel for the local culture and customs, and also to eat really good food and make some great friends. I absolutely recommend, if you are visiting Rome for the first time, put a cooking class on your itinerary. In particular, this pasta making class in Trastevere that we did through Walks Devour. Our teacher was a young Roman woman, Elise, and she was so fun. She gave us insider tips about like what kind of food souvenirs to bring back and where to eat around the area. Her energy was just so wonderful. And obviously she knew how to cook. She poured us Prosecco while we cooked and snacked. And even though this was actually my 3rd cooking class in Italy, we used a technique and a tool that I had never seen before before. It was so fun. We made 2 different pastas and we even made gelato. Everything turned out so amazing, especially the fettuccine in the red sauce. That dish was amazing. I definitely am going to recreate that one at home. Everything we had was simple, it was fresh, but it was so flavor packed at the same time. So if you're looking for the perfect cooking class in Rome, this is the one. I'm going to put the QR code on the screen. You can scan it to go ahead and book, or I'll also put the link in the description below. After the class, they send you a full PDF of all of the recipes so that you can recreate what you cooked when you get back home. To me, this is the next iteration of souvenirs, skills-based souvenirs. In fact, since my very first cooking class in Rome, I have actually hosted pasta making evenings with my friends and family. So nice to be able to bring back a skill from your trip that you can then share with your loved ones at home. And since this class is located in one of Rome's best neighborhoods, definitely plan your itinerary around it like I did for my cousin and I, where we spent some time exploring before going into our class. Based on the tips from our teacher on what kind of food souvenirs to buy and what kind of souvenirs to stay away from, this really helped us in our shopping over the next couple days. Of course, you could also spend some time in Trastevere after the cooking class. It's really a fun place to be. This is where a lot of nightlife also is, but we were tired from our long day and we made our way back to the apartment to get some sleep before day 3. Even though I had already been in Rome for a few weeks by the time my cousin came to visit me, I had never been so tired as I was during these 3 days of her visiting me, because I was there as a true tourist alongside her. Before that, I would maybe do one thing and, out and about, and then go back to my apartment and work a little bit because, again, I was there for so long. I just want to give you that as a heads up to make sure you're wearing really great walking shoes and planning some energy breaks. It's okay to go back to your hotel. In fact, recommended to kind of recover and rest a little bit before you go out for your evening plans. And we would have been doing even more of that if I had been staying directly in the center of Rome. Unfortunately, I was not this trip. On day 3, we again had an early start, but not as early as the day before when we were trying to get in line for St. Peter's Basilica. The main event on this day for my cousin was the day she was going to visit the Colosseum. But first, we started out by going to the Monti neighborhood, and you have to prioritize visiting Monti on your trip. This is one thing that I would not edit out as you're customizing your itinerary. Monti is such a beautiful neighborhood. Yes, it's a little bit touristy, but it actually feels much more local than touristic. It is a little bit hilly. There are great restaurants, great cafes here, and this is the neighborhood where the Colosseum is. Plus, there's a lot of good vintage shopping here. Even I was interested in checking out the shops in this area as someone who hates shopping. So we had ourselves a delicious breakfast. It was strawberry season while we were there, so I was lucky enough to get this croissant that had cream inside, which is my go-to, but also strawberry swirled around it. Amazing. And then we popped into some vintage shops until it was time for my cousin's tour. Now, I have been inside the Colosseum multiple times, so I did not feel the need to go back in there again on this trip. For you, of course, this is one of those landmarks. I mean, I don't know how you go to Rome and not go into the Colosseum, but do plan in advance for this as well to make sure that you're able to get a reliable ticket. When you book your ticket for the Colosseum, it will also include entry into the Roman Forum. This can easily take up half of your day, if not majority of your day, exploring the Colosseum and the Roman Forum, especially if you're a history buff, especially if this stuff fascinates you and you really want to make the most of it. I recommend getting some kind of an audio guide, if not a guided tour with a person, so you understand everything that you're seeing and the true history behind everything you're seeing, so that it doesn't just feel like a bunch of random ruins. But of course, do things at your own pace. My cousin went off into the Colosseum and she saw a little bit of the Roman forums, but she didn't see every single thing. I think it would be really tough to see every single thing. Now, while she was doing that, in case you happen to be watching this and this is not your first trip to Rome, or you just have a gap in your itinerary to fill, I went and did another thing that I had never done before in Rome, despite having been there so many times. I finally went up inside the Vittorio Emanuele Monument. This is that big white structure, that big white building, often known as the wedding cake building, because it's made of this white stone and it kind of looks like a tiered wedding cake. I bought an 18 euro ticket, I believe it was, to go all the way up. It's stunning. I made my way to the terrace, enjoyed a coffee. The coffee was not great, but the view was very nice. Even though this was in May, you can see it was quite a cloudy day. I got so wrapped up in this. I then walked a little bit through the museum. I was trying to kill time until I met my cousin back up. But I got so wrapped up in my thoughts and in the experience that I forgot that the main reason I had purchased this ticket was because I wanted wanted to go up to the very top of this structure. To do that, you have to go to the second floor around the back terrace and take a glass elevator to the very top. Then you'll get the most beautiful views over the city, apparently. I don't know, because I forgot. It completely slipped my mind until I was at lunch later with my cousin and we were exchanging stories about our time, her at the Colosseum and me at this building, and it dawned on me that I had completely forgotten. So I will have to do that again the next time I go to Rome, and I just want to make sure to call it out for you here so you don't make the same mistake I did. We had lunch in the Monti neighborhood. I did stop for gelato on the way first because I was hungry and wanted a little snack. Our cooking teacher from the night before had told us to make sure we get the strawberry flavor where we see it because it's in season. So of course, had to do that. We had a beautiful lunch and then we made our way to one of my other favorite lookout points in Rome. It's not the most popular, but I really like it. It's this big open plaza. It's called Piazzale Quirinale. And from here you can see just the dome of St. Peter's Basilica in the distance. It's especially pretty during sunset and it's always on the quieter side, so I really like it. And from here you can make your way down the steps and you'll be again into the most central areas of Rome where the Trevi Fountain is, where the Pantheon is. We were on a mission. We were doing some souvenir shopping at this stage of our trip. It was almost the evening of her third day visiting. And this was also my last week of my month-long trip in Rome. So I was also doing some souvenir shopping at this stage. On our way back to Caffè Sant'Eustachio, where we were going to buy some coffee, we stumbled onto Galleria Schiara. I had been here before and it's one that my cousin just sort of stumbled onto, and I love when that happens. She got this little peek. Apparently this area is being restored. It's a nice little hidden surprise when you're walking through the busy streets of Rome to go in and have this quiet little artistic space. In terms of souvenir shopping, we got our coffees from Caffè Sant'Eustachio the next day after my cousin had already left, so she didn't get to join me for this, but I will let you know. I also went to Castroni. There's one by the Spanish Steps and there's one in the Prati neighborhood. I went there to get some olive oil and some colorful pasta in all different shapes to bring back for my niece. I also went to this other store, Legami. You'll see quite a few of them. They are very interesting. They've got a lot in there for kids and adults. I went in to pick up something for my younger cousin and my niece. So if you're looking for souvenir options beyond the skills-based souvenir of a cooking class, which I still strongly recommend, those are some of my recommendations of where to go. This evening, she and I had dinner in my neighborhood, and to be very honest with you, it was not one of the best meals I've had in Italy. If you are curious for a dinner recommendation, I have a foodie guide to Rome that I will link in the description below, so check that out for some of my top recommendations. Now, some words of advice, some things that we didn't do that you could do. Now, we did not go to Villa Borghese Park, but you could. I actually really like this park, but my cousin, she has plenty of parks in Paris, and it wasn't at the top of her priority list. In Villa Borghese, they have a pond. You can rent boats, and you could do a little 20-minute boat ride around this little pond. It's just a beautiful space to walk through, and from up there, again, you get some nice views of Rome. I think some of my favorite. If you are interested in seeing the Borghese Gallery like I was, be sure you book in advance because I was not able to get tickets. This is one of those that sells out. Borghese Gallery, Vatican Museums, and the Colosseum. If any of these are in your must-see lists, I would book them as far out in advance as possible once you know your travel dates. I would then also apply that a layer down to any tours or experiences or activities you for sure want to do, like the cooking class, because especially during busy season, these things do book up. Another great way to spend some time in Rome is to go to the Testaccio neighborhood. It's a bit more local and there is a food market there that is really wonderful. Also, if you really want to get out of the city, you could take a day trip. For only 3 days in Rome, I wouldn't necessarily recommend you do that, but you know your own preferences best. And if you wanted, for example, a beach day, you could go to Ostia or Santa Marinella Beach. You could also go to Tivoli for the day or Castel Gandolfo. So you have options, but again, there's so much ground to cover in Rome alone. As I've mentioned in this video, even though it was my 7th visit to Rome and I had been there for a month and I have previously visited Rome, just Rome, for weeks and months at a time, I'm still discovering new areas, new things to do, new places to visit within Rome. Rome. But with 3 days in Rome, you still can get a really good feel for the city and see some of the major sites and landmarks. My final recommendation for you, though, as someone who really loves Rome and encounters too many people who don't love the city, is to not just treat it like a checklist city. You don't have to see everything just because people say you have to see it. Obviously, Rome is a huge tourist destination. There are the same few places that have kind of earned their spot as must-sees in Rome, and yes, it's for a reason. But I do urge you, especially with 3 days, to also think about what you really care to see. What do you really want to prioritize? If there's something that you don't really care to do, but you feel like you should do it, maybe don't do it. And maybe instead just have additional time to wander around Rome and really take in the magic of the city and the streets. From all of my visits to Rome, the strongest, best memories I have are either of a cooking class where I am actually in the kitchen with fresh local ingredients and new friends, or just wandering around the city without a finite destination, letting myself explore the side streets that are interesting to me, getting a gelato, sitting out while someone's playing music nearby. The city is magical if you let it be. I really hope you love Rome as much as I do.